And what do we have to do? We have to give them another $311 billion? We have to start another war for them like Iraq and spend $2 trillion? Why do the American people owe Israel hundreds of billions of dollars?
So Cenk Uygur was a guest on Piers Morgan, Uncensored, and this whole thing was wild. It was Cenk Uygur against an entire MAGA panel, including Ben Ferguson, Jack Posobiec, Matthew Syed, and of course, Piers Morgan himself. The topic, Israel, Iran, war, and U.S. involvement, and it got heated. Cenk Uygur came in like a wrecking ball and didn't hold back for a second. We're going to go through the most important clips from Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I'll give you my thoughts along the way. Let's get into it together.
This is getting very serious and very real, isn't it, for people in Iran?
Very serious, and he reminded me a bit of, I don't know, if Comical Alley.
Yeah, I was exactly going to say that.
It's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, completely deluded.
Deluded and clearly shilling for the regime. And I just think of this incredible civilization that stretches back thousands of years with a GDP per capita of like $4,000. Israel's is over $50,000, a freer society, one that wishes to develop and grow and be prosperous, rather than to live in this medieval, religious, fanatical worldview. As all the things that you said there, Piers, were completely true about the way they degrade women and repress free speech and all these other punitive measures that are just so awful to endure. One thing I'd throw in, though, is I agreed with the previous speaker on the panel who said that the Afghanistan war was a mistake. Would have been better not to have gone in. I think that's a fair counterfactual analysis. I actually was against the Iraq war too. But I think we should confront something that I don't think was confronted by the America First lobby, which is that if one agrees that Iran would like a nuclear weapon, as the Nuclear Weapon Atomic Energy Authority has said, 60% enrichment, getting very, very close. And if you also believe, as I do, that they would likely use it, then let's not pretend that America can stay out of this. Even a relatively small nuclear war would lead to a nuclear winter that would have an effect around the world of catastrophic proportions. It would affect farming all around the world. It would lead to famine. We can't allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. The idea that the counterfactual is staying out and allowing potentially a nuclear strike to occur would be catastrophic. I think we need to face up to that truth.
All right, Cenk, I mean, you were shaking your head throughout all that. I don't understand why you feel comfortable being such a defender of Iran.
I'm not. No. You see, that's total propaganda. Okay, so let's break it down one by one. Okay, so number one, when I see the Israeli ambassador earlier, he sounds like Baghdad Bob to me. Like Iran is the aggressor. No, Israel is clearly the aggressor. We all saw them start the war. Second of all, they say, oh my God, we're so worried about civilians. Israel always kills more civilians than their opponents, and by an order of magnitude. For example, Hamas, terrible. They killed 36 kids on October 7th. Awful, right? Israel has killed 500 times as many kids. So this guy, pretending to be an Iranian expert, is telling us about how much he's concerned about women. Israel has killed 20,000 women in Gaza. How about their rights? How about the rights of to those women to stay alive? How about all the civilians they're murdering in Iran?
Why are you avoiding criticizing?
So when I see you guys,
but Cenk, why are you criticizing?
No, I'm not avoiding it at all.
But Cenk,
I'm not avoiding it at all.
But
Let me explain. Let me explain.
Okay. Why are you ducking saying criticism of Iran?
It's a simple question.
I'm not ducking it at all. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? It's simple. I don't like the Iranian regime at all. Okay. I'm an atheist now. They would kill me first. I got no interest in the Iranian regime. But the Israeli regime would also murder me. So I want you guys to be fair and balanced. So don't tell me that the Iranian regime is super dangerous to its neighbors while Israel actually attacks all of its neighbors, including Iran. So tell me about how dangerous the Israeli terrorist regime is as it attacks civilians again and again and again, except that you say, well, Muslim lives don't really matter. That's why you guys don't count the Muslim civilians that Israel murders on a regular basis. So look,
what would they murder you for?
The Iranian regime is bad, and it is, and it is. It's just like Saddam's regime was bad. Hold on, Ben, let me finish. So the North Korean regime is terrible. The Chinese regime runs concentration camps for Uyghur Turks. Those Turks are my people. The Russians invaded Ukraine. These are all terrible regimes. That doesn't
Piers, you can't
mean
answer the
we have to
question 'cause
start a
he's-
war
All right,
with
let
them.
Ben respond.
And it doesn't mean that America has to fight Israel's
Okay.
war for it.
Well, America
You're a
isn't
grown-up
fighting it at the
country
moment.
now.
We're not fighting
At the
it.
moment,
Move on.
America
Fight your own wars.
all right, but America
not
is
$1,
not-
not one troop.
America is not involved in this war at the moment. Ben Ferguson.
Yeah, it's amazing he just said that Israel would kill him. I asked him 7, 8 times.
That's not true,
What
Piers.
would they murder you for? What would they murder you for? And I said over and over again, you said that Israel
They
would murder you.
They murder journalists more than any other country.
What? So
they
you're telling me
murdered
right
more
now-
journalists than World War I, World War II,
Hold on,
Vietnam,
let me
and
be clear.
Afghanistan
Let me be clear.
combined.
Let me be clear.
They
You're not
murdered
answering the
more
question.
journalists than
You
all other
said-
conflicts in the world combined. They
I'm
murder
asking
Muslim
you a
Americans,
question. You
12 of
brought it
them.
up.
And America does not
Wait, so
defend
you're
American
telling me that
citizens
right now
in
you
the
are a
occupied
target of Israel,
territories.
that
All right, Cenk, let him
Israel
speak.
murders Americans all
Cenk,
the
let
time,
Ben
and
have
America
his
never
say.
defends us.
See, this is the problem. When you say things that are this egregious, everyone watching around the world is going to look at this
It's
and
a
say,
fact.
this guy is an idiot because you didn't
Look it
answer the
up.
question. You said that Israel
No,
would murder
Grok,
you right now.
ChatGPT,
I said,
look it up.
what would
Israel
they
has
murder
murdered
you
more
for?
journalists than
What?
all
No, I'm
other
not talking
conflicts
about-
in the world
I'm
combined.
asking you personally. You said they would murder you now. I'm not going to let up on this. What would they murder you for? You're telling me
Yeah,
right now that you think Israel wants to
absolutely.
find you and kill you right now where you are?
No. If I go to Israel, you
you're
said
full of crap.
go to
Okay,
Israel.
got it.
If I go to Israel,
Okay.
Israel would almost certainly murder. IDF already wrote my name on a bomb. It's not like they're hiding it. And they murder journalists more than any other country. In fact, all the other countries combined. That's a literal fact. And they murder Muslim Americans, 12 of them. And they didn't object under Biden. We don't object under Trump because you
This
can
coming
murder
from the
American
guy
citizens
earlier that
only if you're
refused to admit
Israel.
that Israel was
the
attacked.
terrorist state of Israel is allowed to kill Americans. And what do we have to do? We have to give them another $311 billion. We have to start another war for them like Iraq and spend $2 trillion. Why do the
Piers-
American people owe Israel hundreds
Let
of
me say
billions
this.
of dollars? Why do we
I
owe
saw
them more
hostage-
wars?
Piers.
All right, let
Why do we
Ben
owe
respond.
them dead American?
This part of Piers Morgan Uncensored is where things really start breaking down. Cenk Uygur is trying to make serious points, but you've got Ben Ferguson talking over him, Jack Posobiec jumping in, and Piers Morgan just letting the chaos play out. This always happens on Piers Morgan Uncensored. No one gets to actually hear the person trying to make sense. But if you listen close, Cenk Uygur makes two important points that stand out. First, Cenk Uygur says the October 7th attack was awful. No one's denying that. But how does that justify wiping out Gaza? Cenk Uygur compares it to 9/11, and he's right. After 9/11, we invaded Iraq, killed hundreds of thousands, and created more chaos. Israel is doing the same, responding to one attack by killing tens of thousands, including women and children. Cenk Uygur asks, when is it enough? And no one on that panel wants to answer. Second, the money. Cenk Uygur brings up the billions the U.S. sends to Israel every year. If MAGA folks like Ben Ferguson and Donald Trump really believe in America first, why do they never complain about that? Why is it always schools and healthcare we can't afford, but war money is endless? Cenk Uygur exposes that double standard right on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and you can tell it hits a nerve. And he's right to ask, where's your loyalty? If you had to answer America or Israel, what would you say? No speech, just one word. And I think a lot of people on that panel wouldn't be able to give a straight answer. But Cenk Uygur already did, and that's why this moment on Piers Morgan Uncensored stands out.
American
I
soldiers.
saw-
We
Let Ben
don't
respond,
owe them
Cenk.
anything.
Don't talk
They
over each
owe
other.
us. Give
All
me
right.
the $300 billion back.
Let
Give me
Ben-
the $300
let
billion
Ben
back.
respond.
You owe us. I don't owe you. And Ben, you're supposed to be an American, not an Israeli. Look at me and Jack. Me and
am
Jack
an
don't
American.
agree on anything else. But we agree that we should serve America. I say Americans first, not Israelis. Stop the wars.
Let me say this.
Look at MAGA.
Okay, here's what I'll
Tucker
say.
Ben
Carlson,
speak,
Martin
Cenk.
Taylor
Number one.
Greene, Steve
All right.
Bannon, all
Cenk,
saying
time out.
stop the war.
All
We
right.
didn't ask for war.
Ben, let
We
him-
didn't- Here's
let-
the
let
left
Ben
and the right
speak.
uniting, saying we don't want war.
Cenk, let
I'm gonna
Ben speak.
respond. Number one, my foreign policy has changed drastically from after 9/11. I don't think we should go into Iraq. Afghanistan, if I could have a redo, I would change what I thought about that. I've said that very clearly for years
This is
now
your
on
redo.
TV. But no, I said I've changed my foreign policy. When you make mistakes and you see what happens, it's okay to change. It's called growing up, all right? You learn from your mistakes. I'm not in favor of invading
Good
America into Iran. So let me say that first so you put words in my mouth. Second thing, I've seen two hostage videos today. One from the guy that's in Iran right now and you. And I don't know why you act like there's a country that is running terrorism in the Middle East, Iran, who's chanting death to Israel. By the way, death to America. They chant death to America too, okay? And why you act like they're not a threat to the Middle East and to American interests over there. That's why Donald Trump said yesterday.
Jack,
that's
you
why
think
Donald
they're a
Trump said
threat to
yesterday,
us?
if you come after, yes, I do. I do think Iran's a threat just because they helped kill American soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. They trained the damn terrorists.
No, I
that
asked
killed
Jack. I
people
asked
that
an American.
I know people that died serving their country in Iraq and Afghanistan. I just went to Fort Bragg and went to where the 82nd.
Yeah, because you sent them to die on behalf of Israel.
On a plaque. I'm not screwing around with this. Do not tell me that Iran
them to
did not help
on
kill
behalf
Americans.
of Israel. Ben, I had these debates with you on the Iraq War. I had these debates with you on the Iraq War. You were 100% wrong then. You're 100% wrong now. You sent American kids to die there on behalf of Israel then, and you want to send American kids to die on behalf of Israel.
Let me bring in. All right,
Jack, I disagree with you on everything else. But
let me bring in Jack.
Speak up here.
Let me bring in Jack. Jack, final word to you.
Well, certainly they're a threat, but in the sense that they're a threat because the United States is currently sending the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier from the Asia Pacific, from Westpac, over to the Middle East. So, by the way, this is the first time that China now has more aircraft carriers in the Pacific than the United States. The first time that's ever happened. Now you're going to have those 5,000 sailors on that aircraft carrier, plus the other 5,000 that are on the Carl Vinson, potentially sitting within range of everything that Iran has. This is exactly what I've been talking about. So the threat to American lives is, and I think it's right there. I think it's what you're saying. It's because America is getting involved in a war that's not ours.
Can I ask a question of Jack and Cenk, just quickly? You say it's a war that isn't yours. If you were convinced, let me ask you a hypothetical, that Iran was close to getting
a nuclear... You guys always do these hypotheticals.
If Iran was close to getting a nuclear weapon...
What is?
As the UN inspectors say, let me ask you a direct question. Do you then think, if America was the only country that had the capability to degrade and destroy Iran's nuclear capacity, would it then be in American interest to intervene?
So should America go around and blow up all the nuclear sites that aren't American? Should we attack China? Should we attack Russia? Should we attack France? Should we attack the UK? All of them? Is that your contention?
So you would.
Should we attack Israel?
Okay, so it's a consistent position. You would permit. You think it's in America's interests?
No, you asked me a hypothetical. You're playing this game. You're trying to Kafka trap me right now.
No, we didn't say that.
You're trying to Kafka trap me, and you're trying to say, well, if you agreed to this hypothetical that I asked you, then you must also... No, I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing that game right now. You're saying, in a hypothetical situation, should America attack someone? To your point, they do not have weaponized nuclear capability or uranium that is at the point of weaponization at 90%, which they could use for an atomic bomb. They do not have that. They have 60%. So you're saying even if they had 90%, which, by the way, doesn't sit with the DNI Gabbard's assessment and the entire assessment of the intelligence agencies that Iran is not currently developing weapons of mass destruction. They're only enriching uranium. So you're saying, oh, well, that's totally fine. You've never even asked me what I think. You're trying to play this game where you
really?
put words
I've been asking myself.
I'm not playing that game.
I'm not trying to play any game. I've been asking myself the question a lot over the last few days.
Because you're setting up a false
if I may just finish. Once I read the report that Iran had been disassembling...
I'm the same. I'm the same as Matthew. I read that report. I read that report, and what was crystal clear from that report is that there have been constant lies and obfuscation from the Iranian regime in relation to the nuclear program.
From the Israeli regime.
Clearly, they believed that they were being lied to in their ability to report properly about what was going on. They also believed that uranium enrichment was now at a level where it was quite likely and possible that Iran could have a full nuclear bomb imminently, weeks, months, whatever that period may be. And in that circumstance, I took a view, in a way that I'd be very critical of the Israeli government for what's going on in Gaza at the moment, but I took a view that if you are Israel right now and you have Iran with the atomic agency saying they are getting perilously close to being able to create a nuclear bomb,
nonsense.
That is a time where you may decide that is a time to stop them. And that appears to be
I think diplomacy is possible.
But I've got to leave it there. We've run out of time, guys. I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry.
I was asked a
Diplomacy has
question.
not been tried
This
here.
is the same lies that Israel fed us about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
All right.
The same hypotheticals. Oh, what if Iraq has weapons of mass destruction? Oh, here's fake intelligence telling you that Iraq has weapons
is
of
not
mass
fake
destruction.
intelligence. This is
is
from
how
the Atomic
Israel lied us
Agency.
into a war before. And then they always do hypotheticals like, oh, what if the Palestinians say that we don't have a right to exist? No, the Israeli cabinet has voted that Palestinians don't have a right to exist.
Okay.
All their hypotheticals are what Israel
All right.
actually does.
I've
What
got to
if
leave it
Iran
there.
has a nuke? Israel actually has a nuke.
Okay.
Israel is the most aggressive country and the most likely to use a nuclear weapon. We have to get out of Israel's control.
Okay,
I don't
I've
think
got to
the
leave it
left
there.
and the
Cenk.
right
Showing on
uniting,
TV.
saying
I've got to leave it
yes,
there,
serve
guys.
Americans
I've run
first.
out of time.
Diplomacy, get
I've
Russia
run out of time,
involved,
guys. I'm
diplomacy,
sorry.
Rick
I'm
off.
going to have to leave it there. I appreciate you joining.
Not $1, not one troop.
We've gone well over time, but I appreciate you all joining me. Thank you very much.
Toward the end of Piers Morgan Uncensored, Cenk Uygur says something simple that cuts through all the noise. Not $1, not one troop. And honestly, that line says everything. Cenk Uygur is calling out the exact same war game that we saw with Iraq. The same fear tactics, the same fake urgency, the same call to send billions overseas while telling Americans we're broke. Cenk Uygur is saying, how do we always have money for war, but never money for healthcare, for housing, for anything that helps working people? And what makes this even more ridiculous is the way they keep pushing the same what-if scenarios. On Piers Morgan Uncensored, you hear it again and again. What if Iran builds a nuclear weapon? But Cenk Uygur is right to flip it. Israel already has nukes. The United States already has nukes. So why is it always, what if they might, when we're the ones who already have the weapons? That's not debate, that's fear propaganda. And Cenk Uygur wasn't buying it. And then there's Ben Ferguson, bringing up that Iran says death to America like it's some breaking news headline. They've been saying that for decades, but they haven't invaded us. They haven't attacked us. Meanwhile, the U.S. keeps funding Israel's military while ignoring what happens to civilians and even journalists. And no one's held accountable. Not under Trump, not under Biden. Cenk Uygur is the only one on that stage calling it out. And it's happening right there on Piers Morgan Uncensored. At the end of the day, Cenk Uygur was the only one who came in with facts, with numbers, with real questions. Everyone else played defense or shouted over him. But Cenk Uygur stood firm. And that's why this debate, if we can even call it that, wasn't just another moment on Piers Morgan Uncensored. It was a moment where someone finally said what most Americans are thinking. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with Cenk Uygur? Do you think Ben Ferguson or Piers Morgan made any real points? Drop it in the comments. And if you're enjoying these breakdowns, make sure to like the video, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.